Welcome to the Get Your Act Together podcast. I am your host, Kelly Reynolds, and today I have a wonderful guest with me. Debra, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Kelly. It's great to be here.
So, Debra, this is Debra Joy, by the way. Can you tell everyone who you are, what you do?
Sure. I'm still Debra Joy, and I'm a leadership coach. Prior to coaching, I co-founded a national nonprofit and 3 businesses. One was sold, one went nowhere, one went public. And I have a master's in leadership and training. And I am also certified as a somatic experiencing practitioner. And somatic experiencing is a therapeutic practice to heal trauma from or excess stress in the nervous system. So for the past 15 years, I've been combining that life experience and my education to coach entrepreneurs, executives, and creatives to achieve way more success with less stress by taking a very embodied, intuitive approach to their work.
I love it. I this comes up a lot on this podcast. I feel like being an entrepreneur is like the quickest way to feel like you need to figure out your life. Like you need to figure out your mindset and all the things. And so many things come up when you're an entrepreneur that I think that don't come up with when you're an employee, that it's this great journey. You're kind of forced on this journey, whether you like it or not.
Right. It really is the hero's journey. You know, that model that's used in all great movies, right? It was coined by Joseph Campbell. And I think when you decide to start a business, you have this idea of what it's going to be, and then you're in it. Like, right. Either things went way off course because of challenges, or these opportunities came that you couldn't have imagined.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how that happens, right? I feel like a lot of people are going through that now who started businesses in COVID and they were kind of one way, and now things have changed a bit, and having to ride that wave of everything changes all the time here, and being okay with that, that's hard.
It is. And I think the more we can stop looking outside of ourselves at what we can't control, and we can come back to ourselves and our own sphere of influence and really tap into who do I want to be in this experience, then the easier it is for us to actually face those challenges in a way we can look back and feel good about and ethical and strong.
I love it. I'm super excited for today's conversation. Okay, so tell me about this kind of journey from corporate-ness, right? This business, what do you call it? Being in these businesses, obviously big businesses, or you went public, and now you are here helping people heal. How did that journey happen?
Oh yeah, that was definitely a journey. So I had this belief that I personally had to save the planet from destruction. You know, apparently I didn't fulfill that goal, but that was my intention.
It's a lot of pressure to put on yourself.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And I didn't necessarily want to go the nonprofit route, because my belief has been that business is the most powerful force of social and environmental change. So I wanted to work from within that. Now, friends and I did start a national nonprofit called Canadian Business for Social Responsibility, which was all about pushing businesses in that way. But that was, a volunteer side thing we were doing. Business for me was, how can I really affect change at a level where people are willing to pay for it? People are willing to pay for things they care about. And so, you are the master of systems. And I didn't have a ton of business experience. And my first experience of learning the importance of systems was when I worked for a skincare company in Canada. And I was in my 20s. And my job was to actually go into the problem stores and turn them around and make them profitable.
Okay.
So I couldn't affect the location. I couldn't change the product. I couldn't change the pricing. I couldn't change the foot traffic. But whenever I went into a store that was underperforming, what I noticed was behind the scenes was chaos. Like product wasn't getting onto the shelves in the right way. Things weren't being ordered properly. And what that did was created such a level of stress for the staff. They spent so much time trying to figure out and refigure out how to do things properly. They couldn't focus fully on the customer. So the first thing I would do, even though there was pressure to get sales up, get profit up, I would step back and put really simple systems in place that people could follow automatically so that they then could give all their attention to being with the customer, which was why they took the job in the first place. So that taught me the value of systems. And I continued to work in businesses that had a, hopefully profound impact on people's lives. But what I hadn't done was put healthy, sustainable systems into my own life. So in my 30s, I got incredibly sick and I actually became bedridden. I had to quit work. I had to live off my investments and I moved to a little village in Mexico to heal.
Wow.
Yeah. It was great. You had to get there by boat. There was no electricity. There was no cell phones.
You are just checking out.
I totally checked out. And that enabled me to check in with myself, really. And so as much as business was its own kind of journey, I was on a whole new journey that was a deeper hero's journey for me because I had 100% identified with how I could be in service in the world.
Mm.
And now it was, I can't do anything of value, air quotes. I have to just heal. And that was really what got me in touch with my own body and took me on a healing journey. And then when I moved to the States, I met a man in this little village in Mexico, came to California to be with him. We married. We're still married. And I still wanted to help people, but I was sick in bed most of the time. And because I had coached people in the past and worked with CEOs and entrepreneurs, people started finding me and calling me for advice. And I would tell them, just so you know, I'm sick. I'm lying in bed. We'd be on the phone. I'd mostly have my eyes closed listening, and I would just offer advice. And then it snowballed into a whole coaching practice. And now I've actually developed an online program that teaches people how to create their own system to achieve more success with less stress.
I love this. This couldn't be more appropriate today. If you are a longtime listener of this podcast, you will know that last February, my wrist stopped working. And it was one of those things where I wasn't really convinced there was actually something wrong with my wrists. It was more of my body is saying, if you can't use your hands, you have to sit still. Because everything I do is with my hands. I can't use the computer or the mouse or the writing or make dinner or anything. And then if you're on YouTube, you'll see my hair right now is sticking straight up on the top. I don't know if you can see that from here. My hair started falling out, I don't know, about 4 or 5 months ago. And I went to comb my hair one day and I had not a bald spot, but like real thin, real thin. And I freaked out and it's since grown back. I think I'm guessing it was stress. But it's all sticking up now and there's nothing I can do about it. So everybody thinks I just look like Dennis the Menace. Because that manifestation of stress in your body is debilitating, obviously much more to you. I mean, you were in bed, not moving. So how did you come back from all that?
I'd say I'm coming back from all that. Do you mean physically or is that what you mean?
I guess any of it. Like mine has slowed me down in ways and been more of a, you need to get yourself together before this gets worse, more of a warning. Right. But you were very sick. How do you come back from that and then kind of put yourself back together and say, okay, I still have more to do. I want to go and help other people.
Okay. Well, like you, I actually had a lot of warnings. And unlike you, I didn't listen to them.
Well, I'm not sure I'm great at listening either, to be honest.
It's hard. It's so hard when you're passionate and there's so much you want to do. And there maybe in my case is an identity very much tied with doing. So I would actually say coming back for me is always a work in progress. I will still overdo things. Now I like to think I do them consciously. I will make choices like, that feels like a real push. And I will think, and that's worth it to me. I didn't used to make that choice and everything felt worth it to me. So I now have just practices in place. I'd call it a system. I have practices in place that set me up to be in the best state of well-being I can be in. And then I do my work from that platform. I don't go out and do my work and then go take care of myself.
Yeah, fit it in afterward, which I think is what a lot of us do.
Right. Absolutely. And that would be my default. That is a
Yeah.
very well-worn pattern in my nervous system and brain. So if I get stressed, I find myself going there. Like it was just, oh,
Yeah.
I'll do a little more
I could get something else done, just a little bit more.
because then
Yeah.
I can relax. Then I've earned it.
Right. That idea of having to earn relaxing. I still do that.
Yeah.
As much as I fight it, I still do that. Like, no, I have to do more before I can just sit down all day and do nothing. Like, my brain doesn't like that very well.
Right. So I've actually worked breaks into my day. Like I'll work for 90 minutes and then take a break. I do a little yoga nidra midday to kind of reset my nervous system to come back. So I plan my work in different flows that are about supporting how I want to feel. Because when I work with a client on their goals, I'm interested in what their goal is, but I'm so much more interested in why they want it.
Mm.
To me, that's kind of the secret sauce is like, I'll work with clients, kind of two types of clients. One is they're already super successful. They've achieved a ton of goals. They want to do more, but they're actually not happy. Like maybe they're just really frustrated, or it's like, is this all there is? Or they're so stressed out. I had one client who's super successful who said, if I keep working this way, I'm going to lose my family and I'm going to die. I'm just not a great person. And they were super successful. Then there are others who, I am working so hard all the time and I can't get where I want to go. So I have these two different types. And for both, I look at, why do you want what you want? Because anytime there's a goal, first of all, there's a belief, or we imagine how we're going to feel when we've achieved it. So there's this desire to feel something that we're not feeling right now. And there's also potentially something within us that wants to be expressed, that going for that goal would cause expression of it. So maybe when you were starting this podcast, like you had to be different than you were before the podcast in some ways, whether it was learning the technical skills or being bolder, being bigger. There's a goal that's wanting something in you wants to be expressed, and the goal is a venue for that. So I look at, why do you want it? Because there's a way of being that goal will give you. And then we look at, what are the systems we can put in place now that suit you in your current life, that enable you to start being that person right now while you're working on that goal, not when you achieve it one day.
I love this. So this idea of becoming someone else almost, in order to not just achieve the goal, but the goal is almost feeding into telling you who you have to be to get there.
Right.
It's kind of,
so coming back to like, I got to do all this work so I can rest. Because when I rest, I like me better. Like I'm more spacious with people. I don't bark at the kids. Like I'm kinder. Okay. So what do I need to do right now to put me in that state? And then if I can get in that state first, maybe I decide I'm not going to do that extra bit of work right now. I can push it to tomorrow. Maybe it doesn't need to be done at all. It was just my old pattern thinking. But if for me, it was the same thing as you. Like, I can work this hard and then I can rest. That rest was the goal. And look what my body did. It was so generous. It was like, girl, I'm going to stop you and send you to Mexico, and you're going to do nothing but rest.
It's very funny how your body like reacts. It's like, no. I'm like, your body's built to protect you, right? Like it is working to protect you. Don't do crazy things. We might die. And when it gets to that point where like, I feel like you're redlining the engine, you're getting too hot. And it's like, no, shutting this down. Like there's like triggers there that your body's just like, nope. Yeah. And I usually, when you try to push past that, and I'm not like doing endurance running or anything for like, I'm not in the Olympics. I'm just like having a bad Tuesday. That's when everything goes to hell, right? That's when I feel awful. I don't sleep. I can't focus. I'm here at my desk, but I'm not actually getting anything done. I just feel like I have to.
Yes.
That's, yeah. So tell me about how you coach. Somatic experiencing? Yes? That's the right, did I say right? Yes. Okay. What is this and how does this work?
Okay. So it's a part of what I do in the coaching.
Okay.
So somatic basically means physical body based. That's what it means. Experiencing is, and we know what experiencing is, but the whole idea is you bring yourself into an experiential relationship with your body, which so many of us are lacking. I was definitely that. I was living life from the head out. I danced, I worked out, I rode my bike, I was physical, but I was disconnected. And often there's very good reasons to be disconnected from your body. Often it doesn't feel good inside because maybe past trauma, something happened. And if you were to let yourself feel it, it might be overwhelming. So somatic experiencing creates a really safe container, a slowed down way for someone to experience what's really going on in their body, to work through old traumas, not by reliving them and facing them head on, but actually letting the body complete something. So when we're super stressed, even when we're being critical to ourselves, we go into fight or flight mode. And like you said, the body's always trying to protect us. So that's the body trying to protect us from something. Everything is wrapped up. The muscles are tense and ready to go. But if they don't get to complete that protective position, that tension stays in us. That wiring stays in us. So if we had trauma at any point in our life, and that might not be something big, it's just anything that was too big for you to handle at that time. And something happened that was maybe too fast, or not, something happened that wasn't enough. Maybe you didn't get enough love or enough nutrition. That can be traumatizing. There's a pattern that happens in the body. And your body is always trying to complete that so you can be free of it. So what you'll find is you're unconsciously finding yourself in the same patterns, maybe the same relationships, the same blocks in your life. You're unconsciously creating these situations to move through them. So when we work slowly with the body and allow it to feel maybe this tension rising, this gripping, this pulsing, this heart racing, and we're just allow it to complete, on the other side of that is freedom.
That sounds wonderful.
Lovely. Like I feel physically better every time I do somatic experiencing in one of my coaching sessions. It doesn't come up in every session, but I actually went and became a practitioner because many years ago, I was working with two clients, and let's use one as an example. Her reactions were so much bigger than what was happening. So she would go immediately to rage. And I knew I wasn't helping her with all of like the neuroscience I knew and the different things. I couldn't understand how to help her through it. And I thought, I think this is old trauma. And so that drove me to go and study this, which of course helped me heal my own trauma. And I would say I'm still healing trauma because we actually live in a society that's pretty traumatizing. So there's opportunity to be traumatized all the time. So I'm continually working with my own system. And I find working with clients, I have to be so slowed down and present to do this work. It completely nourishes me.
You can tell you have this wonderfully calm voice that I'm sure is wonderful to be coached by.
Oh, thanks.
Everything's so lovely. To that trauma, like my best friend and I were just talking about this the other day. She's like, we grew up in the 80s and the 90s. Like if you weren't dead, it wasn't trauma. Like if you weren't in the hospital, it wasn't trauma. You know what I mean? Like you're fine. Pick yourself up. Like, and I was like, I don't have any trauma. And she goes, because we didn't die. That's what we thought was trauma, but that's not exactly what it is.
Right. Right.
It can be such something smaller, but so much affecting to you. And for all of you out there who think this is a little woo, this is so super connected to health and business. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about how we've already talked about health, but how does this connect to business? Like the personal business connection here.
Okay. Well, I really love working with leaders because I feel like if they can learn to heal their own nervous systems, they stop creating traumatizing environments at work.
Wow.
I think our business places are incredibly traumatizing.
I would agree with the ones I've been in. Yes.
Yeah. I wouldn't say all of them, but most of them. And it's because we're all traumatized as a society, so we can only bring who we are to the table. And there was an interesting study done at Harvard in 2009 on the dark side of goal setting. And it said, in companies and in people who are consistently going after goals, what happens is we get so narrow focused on the goal itself and achieving it that we can ignore other important things that don't fit into the goal. So that could be relationships in business, it could be our personal health. It undermines interpersonal relationships in the office. It can have a detrimental effect on the culture. And it can even lead to unethical behavior. And so I think one of the problems is we are so goal oriented. And it's funny because I teach people all about goals. I have a whole course on goals. But when we get too goal oriented, we can let everything else go away. And when we get that single focused, that in itself is traumatizing. We're not meant to live like that.
And then those goals create an enormous amount of pressure that, especially with our own goals, that we put all this enormous pressure on ourselves. And then we kind of become cranky jerks.
Right. And then if we're not achieving them or in the way we think we should or as fast as we should, because we all made it up from the beginning, we start to criticize ourselves. And that internal critic actually puts our nervous system into a state of fight or flight. And what happens when you're in fight or flight, that's the sympathetic part of your nervous system. It's all about protection, right? That's all it wants to do is get me safe. The parasympathetic part of your nervous system, which is controlled by the vagus nerve, that's all about, we think of it as digest and rest, but its primary thing is actually engagement. How do I connect? So when we're super goal oriented and we are focused and we're being hard on ourselves and we're in fight or flight, we lose that ability to connect and engage and be compassionate and loving. So we can't help but create traumatizing environments when we're missing that entirely human aspect of ourselves.
I feel like you also miss like the forest for the trees. Like you have this goal. I know I've done this myself. You have this goal and you're going to go achieve that goal no matter what happens. But then you kind of have missed all the other opportunities along the way that could have come up that might have been wonderful because you were too focused on one thing.
That's a great point, right? Like we just put these blinders on and so much of life passes us by.
So how do we put systems in place? Well, obviously I want to talk systems. And we used to talk business systems, but I think that there's also habits forming that you need to have happen to kind of heal yourself. Right. So how does that work? How do you create systems for this, habits for this?
Yeah. Well, I think it's a little different for everyone, and I think there are some kind of universal principles. And the first is understanding you already live by systems. Like you said, what are the habits? So if we think in business, a system is just certain procedures or practices done in a certain sequence to get an end result. Is that how you would describe a system?
Yeah. 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 It's just kind of the process of things, right?
Right. And you know where you want to go, right? And so we are living most of our day by habit. Now, I've heard different numbers, but the most recent estimate I heard was about 70% of your day is spent in a habit. You're not thinking about it. And so the reason we have habits is our brain is using a ton of energy to keep it all going, keep your systems going and to think and do it all. So if you do anything repeatedly, it will go, that can become a habit. I don't have to think about it. Let me just wire that in and let it go unconscious. It becomes automatic. So that's a fantastic thing because you save all that energy for creative thinking, problem solving, daydreaming, just being healthy, right? You don't have to think every day, how am I going to tie my shoes today? Or what leg should I put in my pants first? Like there's so many things we don't think about. What tooth shall I start when I brush my teeth? Like if you think about everything that's a habit, it is most of what you do. How do you sit at your desk?
Yeah.
And
you start with the same tooth every time. Otherwise it gets messed up and you don't remember how to brush your teeth anymore.
Right. Yeah. So if you think I'm already doing I have systems in place. Now, if you come back to your goal, so even if your goal is to be totally open to what happens, right? Are my systems that are in place going to get me there? So my goal is actually to experience and be loving. That's my big arching goal. So do I have systems in place, whether it's working or cooking or whatever, that actually set me up to experience that? So rather than think, is it going to get me there in the end? Are my habits making me that person right now? And what I like to start with people, it depends. It's different with everyone. But if I was giving people a generalization, I would say, think about bookending your days. Because if you go to a show, let's say you go see your favorite band, you're pretty sure they're going to open with a song you love. Like they want to grab you right in, and they're probably going to save a great song for an encore, so that you have this amazing opening experience and this fantastic finishing experience. And that's kind of what you remember. You remember like, oh, how I felt. It was, oh, remember that song? That was great. Remember this? And maybe there were some lulls, but you remember the beginning and the end. Same with a movie, right? Oh, it opened strong. It ended strong. Like you have this good feeling. You could think of your days that way. So what's an opening to your day that would set you up to be who you want to be? And what's an end to your day that would set you up to really like cap off the day, finish it, and go to bed as the person you want to be? Maybe you messed up a million times in the middle. That's all part of the journey. That's all part of learning. You are going to fail. But can you start to hone some habits and practices, rituals, whatever you want to call them, real simple, real easy, real small, that kind of anchor your morning and evening as bookends that you can build on? Because the cool thing about habits like systems is one habit triggers another and another and another. So if you are beginning and ending with certain habits that really anchor you in that place you want to be in, they will start to trigger other habits.
Now you've got my mind going, because I'm like, I'm not doing enough habits to support this. I've got like my lists and all that stuff. And I'm wondering, like, as I'm going through, I'm like, I'm going to have to sit down and kind of think through this after we get off this podcast. So I love it. Yeah. I mean, I'm literally just like, okay, what could I be doing to be more open? And oh, well, I love this. Love this.
Well, is there, could we talk about that here? Is it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. If you could have it any way you want, what would your ideal morning look like that would set you up to be that way?
I don't know. I feel like I need more space. Like I need more thinking time. Right now I go from one thing to like, I feed the dog, I make the lunch, I get the water, I do the thing, you know what I mean? Like I feel like it's one thing after the other, and then I'm at my desk.
Right.
So I feel like I need more, I don't know, yoga in there somewhere, just sitting still, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the first thing you said was space, right? So if you just close your eyes and imagine that you actually started your day with space, what would that feel like?
There's a lightness in it. Even as you're saying it, it just feels like, oh, I could think and be more intentional.
Nice.
You know?
So do you have any sense of how much space you would need? Like in an ideal world, what would you get for that?
I don't think I would need a ton of space. I feel like I just need to take a breath, like maybe 15 minutes of just, okay. And then kind of organize my head around what I wanted to do for the day. Like I don't think it's a 2-hour meditation. I mean, maybe it is, but at this point, I don't think my brain would let me do that.
Right.
But just that like short time to just kind of gather my thoughts.
Yeah. And what habit or what things would have to move to give you that the start of your day, 15 minutes of just space to think, write, plan your day?
I feel like I'd have to get up just a little earlier, because then it would be quiet before the whole the whole house started moving.
Right. Okay. So
And
if you were to wake up 15 minutes earlier, does anything else in your life have to change to enable that to be possible?
I just have to not hit the snooze button.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm terrible. I'm terrible about that. I don't know. I'm terrible about the snooze button.
So that might be the hardest part of this whole thing is the snooze button. So if you can have a little ritual that you reward yourself, I mean, the reward really will be that 15 minutes. but even a reward for any time you don't hit the snooze button. So it could be you turn off the alarm like, yes, I love myself. Something where you're like, I did it, but you're
I
doing
did it.
for you.
Like just keeping that commitment to myself.
Yeah. So like, bam, I did it. And you get up, you might sit in bed and just write in bed. Like you don't have to go do anything special, but you just set a timer for 15 minutes and it's your time. It's your space. You can do whatever you want, right? You don't even have to make it result oriented.
Yeah. Cause I feel like I do results all day. I check things off all day. I think like I need some time that's not checking boxes.
Right. Right. So it'd be fun to like maybe try a week of that and then just, like let me know how that goes. Let me know what you're experiencing. Just notice like what is the rest of your day like with that one change.
I love this idea. I knew I was going to love this conversation today. Yeah, I mean, just the small little changes, right? I mean, that's what it comes down to.
I think it really does because somebody asked me what's the most complex process I've ever put in place. I'm like, oh, I can't. I'm not that smart. And that's one of the gifts I give my clients. I have to keep it so simple because I won't understand it. I won't remember it. Like when I see a 7-step meditation, I'm just like, oh, pass. Like that's not going to happen for me.
It's too complicated, right?
Yeah. So I like to start with like, what would the ideal be? Okay, great. Now what's doable in your life, in reality, if the kids are homesick, if the dog threw up on the car,
yes,
like that's real.
Yeah.
We get this idea, Instagram version of what our morning looks like, and then it's like, my kid just puked. My dog needs to go to the vet. So maybe the 15 minutes couldn't happen first thing in the morning, but I remember I want it for myself. So I go sit in the car while the dog's at the vet and I do nothing.
Yeah.
So if you remember that was a commitment, you fit it in where you can, but you are so much more likely to actually build better habits if you anchor it at the beginning of your day.
No, that makes total sense. Yeah. If I don't, yoga makes me feel my body feel better, all that, especially when I'm hunched over sitting at the desk all day. And I know that if I don't do it first thing, it doesn't happen. Like when I don't want to get up in the morning and I'm like, oh, I'll do it at lunch. I'm never getting up. I'm never getting up from this desk because all of a sudden like one thing leads to another and it's dinner and I haven't done anything. And now my back is killing me. So yeah, that anchoring in the morning, and especially it's quiet before everyone wakes up. But once everyone wakes up, like I only have 2 other people and a dog in my house, but once everyone wakes up, it's a little bit of chaos to get ready for school. So yeah, the idea of anchoring in the morning, I love that idea.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I'd love to hear. That'd be great.
This is great. This has been great, Debra. Getting coached by you today.
So fun.
So where can everyone find you now that you've coached me on this? Where can everyone else find you so that they can come and get some coaching as well?
Okay, great. My coaching website is debrajoy.me. I'm currently full in my private coaching. I'll probably have some openings in May. But I am launching the next cohort of the Success Solution, which is the online program that teaches people. You learn about your nervous system, you develop your own patterns and habits and learn how to perform well. And it actually even heal trauma. And that's at thesuccesssolution.net. And that next cohort opens, it begins March 3rd and opens February 1st.
Awesome. Well, I will put all that information in the show notes so they can find you. This has been fantastic. Thank you so much, Debra, for being here.
Oh, it's great, Kelly. Thank you so much.
And I will see everyone else next week. Thank you so much for joining me this week. If you have an agency or want to create one, come join my Facebook community, Get Your Agency Together, where we talk all the things growing and scaling your agency. For show notes and more info on all the things, head over to reynoldsobm.com. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook at ReynoldsOBM. And finally, if you enjoy this podcast, I would love for you to give us a review on iTunes.